Welcome back, everybody. It's Jerry here again with the Happy Hootie, here to save you time and money, and today is no exception. It's always a great idea to maintain your lawn equipment at your home. Now, you can pay other companies to service your equipment for you, but it's a lot cheaper and pretty easy to do it yourself. And today I'm going to show you how to do one of those steps. That's going to be changing the oil on my John Deere 1025R lawn tractor. Now, you may not have the same brand of tractor, but changing the oil is essential, and the steps are basically the same. So if you have a John Deere 1025R, follow along. This will show you the quick and easy steps. If you just have a regular riding tractor and it's a different brand, it's fine. These steps should apply to you too. So some parts you're going to need today are going to be a bucket to put the old oil in. It's nice to have a funnel. It's good to have a removal tool for your oil filter. Now, this is something you can buy at any Napa or O'Reilly Auto Parts store. It works great for your car, as well as these type of filters that are a little smaller. It's a good idea to have yourself some paper towels or a rag handy, because you know you're going to probably get your hands a little messy while doing this work, but don't worry, it all washes off. You're going to have a socket set or a good set of wrenches to be able to remove a couple of bolts or plugs. And you're going to need to have your replacement oil and oil filter. The first step we're going to do is drain the old oil out, but before you do any of that, it's a good idea to let your tractor run for a good 5 minutes or so, to let everything heat up and let that oil heat up, so it kind of gets all the juices flowing. That way, whenever we go to pull the plug, everything will flow out nice and easy. So we're going to do that, and then we'll meet you underneath and show you how to remove the plug. Okay, we're underneath here. It's obviously, it's a little cramped. Our drain plug is actually located right here. It's at the bottom of our oil pan. And be careful, because this is pretty warm, because we've been running this for a little bit, so you're not going to want to touch it that much. You are going to go ahead and get your bucket now. It has to be a low profile bucket, and you're going to place that underneath where that oil is going to come out. And then you're going to get the appropriate size socket and get up here and loosen this bolt. Now, once you get it loosened up, that plug, you'll start to see a little oil start to drip out. Now, you're going to have to move fairly quickly, and you're going to get a little of this on your hands, but you're going to go ahead and twist this off until it gets ready to come off, and then you're going to remove it and let that oil drain down into that pan. Don't worry if you drop this bolt down into the pan. It's okay, you can fish it out later. And there you go. We're going to let all that old black oil pour out of there so that we can get ready for the new stuff. I did mention it's a good idea to keep some paper towels or a rag handy, didn't I? Well, it's for things like that, getting this oil on your hands. It's going to get a little messy before it gets done. But that really is probably the messiest part of this entire thing of changing oil, is just getting that plug out and trying to do it. If you're real good and quick, or wear a pair of gloves, you can do it without getting it on your hands, so that would be advisable. This is still dripping a little bit down there. We're going to go ahead and let it continue to drip into that, letting as much of that old stuff out as we can. And we're going to go ahead and take off the oil filter next. We're just going to grab it, and it's okay. If you end up denting this a little bit, it's okay, because you're going to be putting the new one on, just you don't want to break it off. I'm just going to clamp down on it and turn it. If for some reason your tool keeps slipping off, or you can't get a good grip on it, you can actually take a couple pieces of sandpaper and put them on there like that. And put that on there to give you some extra grip. And then grab a hold of it and turn it. It'll help give you some grip if it's got some oil on there to get you started. And once you get it started, it should just twist off. And it's going to leak some oil down there into that pan, so you got to have that pan down below there. And then we're going to throw the old one away. Once that's kind of done dripping and you've let it sit for a minute, you're going to take your new filter. I bought this one off Amazon along with the oil. Again, I'll put a link down below if you choose to purchase the original manufacturer's equipment for your particular John Deere. If you're going to be purchasing for a different vehicle, obviously make sure that you have the correct filter size. But this is the same oil filter that came off. Now, before we go putting this back on, it's always a good idea to lubricate the seal before we tighten it down. So you can use some of the old oil that came off of there and put it on there. Some people use some of the new stuff to put it on there, but it's a good idea to just get that all lubed up around that, so that when you're twisting that on, it has a real good seal to go around there. And then we're going to take that new filter, and we're going to put it on next. And it'll go on the same way the old one came off. Once I get it on there about hand tight, I'll tighten it down just a little bit more with my tool here. But again, not so much that you're going to crush the filter. And now that that's on there, it's time to put the plug back in. Now it's time to reinstall our plug that we took out of this hole up here before, and it'll still be dripping some oil, but you're just going to have to get up there and put this plug back in, and you'll start it up by tightening it in by your hand. And then once you get it in there good and finger tight, we'll go ahead and crank down on it just a little bit with our socket just to make sure that it's seated in there securely. Wipe off a little of the excess there. So we're going to go ahead and switch this over to tighten this. And we're not going to tighten it too much, just a little bit, just enough to make sure that it's going to stay on there. You don't want to over tighten these. You can run the risk of stripping out threads or stripping off the end of your head, and you're going to have a world of a problem next time it comes time to change your oil again. So let's go ahead and pull this bucket out of here, and we'll go up and load the new oil in. Now, when putting in the new oil, it's imperative to know how much oil is actually going to go in. I've bought 3 quarts of this oil because I know on my particular tractor, the 1025R, it requires 2.9 quarts of oil. So that's what should have left, and 2.9 quarts should go back in. So I'm going to be using most of this. You don't want to overdo it, and you certainly don't want to underdo it. So this is what we're going to be putting in ours. You need to make sure to check your manufacturer's recommendations for your particular riding mower. In our case, there's a latch underneath this front hood. It'll expose your engine compartment, and again, depending on how long this has been running, some of this stuff could be hot. If you come in a little closer, we'll show you where the oil intake is going to be. When adding our oil in, it's a good idea to keep an eye on where it goes in down there at the bottom. And don't go too fast with it, because it has to be able to flow down through all the parts. If you go too fast, it's going to overfill too quickly, and you could have a lot of fresh oil spilling over the top of your engine. And in our particular case, since I've only got to use 2.9 of these 3 quarts, I don't have a lot of waste. I'm going to save the last little bit out of this third container, so I've got my 2.9 quarts put in there. A lot of people would just say put the full 3 in there. I'm trying to do this right for this video, so we'll make sure we only put in the recommended. I'm going to take our cap, and again, just going to give it the ocular pat down there, make sure that the seal and everything looks like it's still good on there, and it looks to be fine. We're going to put this back on and tighten that down. You just want to go finger tight, with that one. Don't overdo that. It was a plastic cap, so we don't want to overdo that. And now we're ready to fire it up and let it run. After we've let it run for a good minute or two, shut it off, and we're going to go check for leaks and make sure that all those fittings are still good, and we're going to check the oil level with our oil gauge. I've checked for oil leaks and didn't see any. This is still some of the old oil. I wiped it off whenever we wiped that off. But to check the actual level of the oil, you're going to use this oil level gauge here and pull it out, and you're going to have to wipe it off and make sure that it's clean. Now what we're going to be looking for is for the oil to be somewhere between these hash marked areas here, preferably towards the upper part of that hash marked area. I don't know if you can see that on there or not. But there's a hash mark, there you go, there's a hash mark area right there. You want to see the upper, you want it towards the upper end of that, not the lower end of that, but you don't want it to be over that, because that would mean we've got too much oil. So once you've got this cleaned up, we're going to stick it in there and shove it down there good, pull it back out, and eyeball it here. It looks like it came to about, I don't know, just a skosh shy of that upper mark, which is precisely where I want, and it's also that good golden colored oil color. So that means that's all the fresh oil in there. It's a good idea that after you've let this run then, again for your next mowing, go ahead and check that again and do a visual inspection of all of your oil points and make sure that none of that is still leaking oil and that everything is holding well for the next couple hundred hours or so worth of your mowing time. Thanks again for joining us today here on the Happy Hootie. I hope you learned something about how to change the oil in your lawn tractor, especially if it's a John Deere like mine. If you did learn anything today or thought this was an informative video, please go down and like and subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate that and we'd love to hear from you in the comments, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.